All right, we're live. Sorry for the delay. We had
We were having dinner.
and they were busy tonight.
They were busy.
swamped.
We're at Spring Creek Model Trains in Deschler, Nebraska, and the restaurant there with the train on the front is
Yeah.
open again. And I think most of us, it was Dave and Deb Zucker and Jeff Zucker and Jim Wigan, myself,
Yeah.
Tony Cook. We're all over there having supper tonight. And boy, the hamburgers were good.
They were good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Maiko, you've been talking to my ex-wife. I'm good at a lot of things. So sorry to disappoint you. So yeah, we got a great crowd. We got 132 in our live feed right now. We'll do a few shout outs, but I know everybody's excited to hear what we're going to do. So we're going to get right
You're going to announce something new?
Something new.
New.
Yeah, we're going to bring back Blue Box. Kidding.
Well, now you would think having me here, that's a possibility. You probably scared a lot of people there.
Yeah, no, we're not bringing back Blue Box. Sorry, that ship sailed 20 years ago. But we are bringing back something that a lot of people have asked for. So, Mark, good to see you. Oregon Western Railroad, thanks for joining us. Rick Simpson from Fort Worth, Texas. That's God's country.
It is.
It's God's country.
It is.
Thank you for joining us. We've got Yates, David, Anthony, Stephen, Harold, and many more. DG Model Works is in the house. We got Sean, BNSF 9708, and many, many more. So we're up to 189. And let's talk. Let's talk about the new stuff. Everybody's wondering what it is. So let's just.
I know what it is.
You know what it is.
I know what it is. I know what both of them are. I'm very excited.
We got two releases tonight. These are brand new molding, brand new molds, brand new models. We're going to start with the first one, and it's really just for one railroad.
Mm-hmm. But
we said that railroad is pretty much loved by most everybody.
Absolutely. And you're doing both. They had two orders of these.
That's right.
So covering both the 1966 and I'm taking this over on you. Have the honors.
Well, so let's go back to the days of cabooses. Okay, let's go back before the 50s and 60s. And most railroads built their own cabooses. Boston and Maine did.
Mm-hmm.
CB&Q made their own way cars. It was kind of a personalized thing.
Right.
If you look at it, you can definitely tell the difference between a CB&Q way car
and done for economy. They didn't want to spend money.
Exactly.
You spend money on passenger cars, locomotives, good freight cars, but caboose. Yeah. Sorry, folks, it's going to be
I mean, Rock Island, they had wood-sided cabooses still going
into the Blue Rock area.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, even the Burlington Northern painted some old.
Yes, there were.
Yeah. Wooden ones green. But here's the problem. Now we flash forward to the 1950s into the early 1960s, and there was a couple of things going on with the railroads. One of which is freight cars were getting bigger. When some of these cabooses were being made, we still had 36-foot boxcars.
Mm-hmm.
So they were getting longer. They were getting taller. We're starting to see some high cube boxcars in this era. And simply put, the older cabooses couldn't see as good.
Couldn't get around to see, yeah.
Couldn't get around to see as much. And then another thing, too, and this is definitely in the case for Denver, Rio Grande, by that time, their maintenance department was updating those cabooses for new federal rail standards that those cabooses didn't have. And this is where Rio Grande was in the mid-1960s. Rio Grande had a caboose shortage because they had some in the shop. They're trying to bring up to the new standards.
The old, the 1400 series that they've been rebuilding, the steel offset cupola,
Absolutely. And the railroad had, built its own cabooses, like we had said, but their shops were in the middle of upgrading all those cabooses to satisfy these new state and federal safety standards. And consequently, they turned to somebody we've probably heard before, International Car Company, ICC.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a first for Denver, Rio Grande. And they ordered their first group of 15 wide vision cabooses from International Car. And so that's what we're announcing. And let's talk about some of these pictures here. The one that we've got on our screen right now. Thank you and Kevin Udaly.
Kevin Udaly's collection. Yeah, this is where I got these. Yeah.
Tell us about this first picture here. It looks like 1501.
Yes, which would be the class unit. As you say, there's our class roster member. There's 15 of those from 1966. Was the first group of international cars, and these, of course, because they're just ahead of kind of that modernized thing, you've got ladders and roof walks and that kind of stuff. So they bought the 15 and 66, and then come back in 76 and buy, I think, 10 more.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. So this picture that we're looking at here, this is 1501. Really striking paint scheme.
I love that.
It's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
aspen gold and silver with the big Through the Rockies herald on the side.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
And believe it or not, this one, it looks like this was done by Warren. Is it Sunkel?
Sunkel, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this is part of the collection. We've got another one going back to 1969 when these were really in their prime. Kind of hard to see in this low light, but you've got some stuff here. This is Warren Sunkel as well.
and this is a lot later. Yeah, this is
this
the
is later.
patch windows, and look at that Milwaukee
Right.
semi-enclosed rack there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So
cool.
they stayed a long time. Some of them did get repainted into the solid action orange, but here's one. I forget what the date is on this one exactly, but you can see windows have been patched out and very weathered looking.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Isn't that a beautiful
That's
shot?
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a Jim Boyd shot. Would probably been Boyd took a trip out in '69 for the Gold Spike Centennial thing and all
Yeah.
that. And there's a lot of slides he took on that trip out west. And I would guess that this is that. And I think that maybe Roper, Salt Lake area.
It's, I got to put this comment up because Rick is saying, here we go, 2 minutes in and the whiners are already out of it. And if you notice, we've got Janik is here. Janik says, hey to Janik. Janik, if you don't know who Janik is a busy man.
He is.
He's got a newborn basically, but he's also a dad. But he is our product developer at Athearn, and the guy is relentless. And I don't know how he gets it all done, honestly. But he had a lot to do with these cabooses, a lot of research that he did. And Janik's question to the crowd is, what would you like to see? Now, keep in mind, both John Janik and others at Athearn have spent a lot of work on this. So we can't just, if you're not, if this is not your thing, if this caboose isn't your thing, I'm sorry, it's somebody's caboose. It's like a radio station.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't like the song that's playing right now, but hey, you know what? There's people that do. It's just a matter of time before we make something that you like. And stick around too. The caboose is not the only one. But if you're a Denver Rio Grande person, you're going to be a very happy person tonight. So Janik, thanks for stopping on by. He somehow snuck out. He found some time to come in, and Janik sums it up very nicely. Patience. Thank you, Janik. We appreciate it, and we appreciate all the hard work you and your crew do.
And this is a great addition to you've been doing some international car cabooses, and this is one from the get-go I wanted. This is maybe my favorite spot in the world to rail fan. This is the Moffat Tunnel West Portal would be right behind you in this picture, and the ski slopes are just to the left there. But this is a neat shot of a train coming out of the Moffat with one of the, I think that's, from the 66 group with ladders on it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Another great shot. You've got that end detail. And I mean, even when they're dirty, they still look really cool.
Look neat, yeah.
I mean, this is another, this is Dick Kelbs.
Dick Kelbs, yeah.
Kelbs, yeah. And beautiful. So,
and look at it. I like this. How you can see they wiped the window on the cupola. See how in the center is see all the soot from going through the tunnels, but somebody got up there and wiped those windows.
Absolutely, yeah. That is funny. That's good weathering tip.
Yeah, good weathering thing. Yeah.
Future. So here's one later.
This is later, but it still is from the 66 group. So this shows a repaint into the Action Orange. And there are some modifications to it. And again, this would be a Genesis model, so I assume you all are going to do that. But seeing the ladders go up, this is still, I think, from the 66 class, which is 1501 to 1515.
Yeah. So we're actually going to do 3 from the first order.
Okay.
So let's show the crowd which one we're going to do. Here is our first one in the group. This is 1500, which we actually showed a picture of at the beginning of the show. You can see the end rails and the end shot as well as the sides. And this is one of 3 road numbers we're going to do. And again, like you said, this is from the 66 order. It's still going to have your full roof walks and all the things that go with that. Now, keep in mind, since this is Genesis, like we were talking earlier, you're going to have these available with lights, as well as lights and sound. And we'll talk about the features about these cabooses in a little bit. The second road number that we're going to offer is this guy right here. This is 1503. And the last one in the group is 1507. And man, I got to figure out a way to justify to get these.
And we were just looking at that new run of bay window.
That's right.
Cabooses. So we did new products that are arriving this summer from Athearn earlier today. So check that out. And looking at anytime I look at those Genesis cabooses, they are just the detail and everything's amazing.
They really are.
This is awesome.
So the features on these, now remember, these are the first order from ICC. So this is the first ICC wide vision cabooses that the Rio Grande ordered back in 1966. That's what they're going to look like. They are going to have the train line air whistle, which will function in DCC mode if you get the sound version. They're also going to have the firecracker style antenna that was real common at that time. And they're going to have rotating roller bearings.
Oh, nice.
So that's just the features for that caboose. We'll get into the features of all the cabooses in a moment. But something else happened. We didn't stick with just the 66 order. Let's talk about the mid-1970s order as well, because we're going to be offering more than just the 66 order. Now, here's a great example of the latter order. So it's the mid-1970s. Rio Grande's coal loading grew substantially, which created the need for more locomotives, more cabooses. And the railroad placed an order for 10 more. So you're right, 10 more wide vision cabooses with ICC. Now, while they were similar to the 66 order, there were some subtle differences. Those differences were mainly the elimination of roof walks, the addition of a backup headlight for reverse moves, and they also had an experimental air filtration system, which I thought was which would make sense when you think about where these guys go. Now this looks like it's 1523 out of Pueblo, Colorado in 1976.
76 have been brand new.
Would have been brand new. Yeah,
it's a little overcast day, but I didn't want to not include the picture because
it's a perfect picture.
Here it is brand new when they first showed up. And little subtle differences across those, from the others. So again, they are the same international wide vision, but this is a later edition. I was excited that you're doing both because when we were putting this trip and everything together, I know you said what was coming, but I kept wondering if they'll do the early or they do the late. And then it was a couple days ago you said, oh, we're doing one from each. So oh wow.
Right, definitely. So there's a great prototype picture we've got there. Here's another one that you got for us. This looks like it was a little bit newer. We're looking about 1983, if I remember right.
That's, I think, right after the whole Mopac Western Pacific UP thing. The Rio Grande got rights on the Colorado Eagle line of the Mopac from Pueblo into Kansas City, and that's a Lee Berglund shot from Kevin U. Daly's collection. And so that would be out in Kansas on trackage rights on the Mopac at the time.
Great picture. What else did you send us? There's
that's a neat,
That is, this is 1988, according to your notes here. And unknown photographer, part of the Kevin U. Daly collection.
And that happens, or slides get bought or they come in a group or something, so we don't always know. But I try to credit everything. So photographer unknown, with it being in Kansas like that, it's possible it's a Lee Berglund shot that just didn't get stamped. It's neat because it's got both the 76 wide vision, and then there's one of the older 1400 series cabooses. And this, you can see the 76 group came with windows, but you can see the darker panels there where they started covering windows because that was another thing that rolled through on safety glass. And rather than spend the money and make the changes, a lot of them got patched, which I'm sure Janek's probably already working on.
I'm sure he is.
Of being these patched with different colors and everything.
Yeah. Janek is going to be busy, not even with this initial release, but
future ones as well.
Absolutely. Here's one from Jim Boyd. Cool picture. And what do we have in the background there, Tony? It's in the 5000 series.
Well, Rio Grande numbers everything together. I think it's a tunnel motor.
Yeah. This picture here, according to your notes, is 77. August of 77.
August 77. I think it says the Adena mine that's up on the Craig branch, I believe.
Yeah, definitely cool. So now folks are wondering, I'm seeing in the comments here, folks are wondering what ones are we going to do? And there's some other questions. So let's go ahead and show them.
Wow.
So yeah, there's going to be some subtle changes. I mean, obviously the biggest thing is the paint scheme, but we're going to be offering 1517 as it appeared post 76.
Okay.
And then we're also going to offer 1522. Same thing from that same era. And let's see, let's talk about the features and what these are going to be. So again, this is from the second quarter, 1976. These are going to have train line air whistles in DCC mode. So if you get the DCC with sound, you have that function available to you. Firecracker style antennas, of course. Rotating roller bearings, ram air filter ventilation system plate, which that's kind of cool. That's something that we haven't really done before. And if you've got the lit up backup light in the DCC version as well. Now there are going to be some customer installed parts. They're going to be non-functional, but marker lights are included. They're just included separately that you can put on yourself. Let's talk a little bit about overall the features. And I mean, some of this we've heard from our other ICC cabooses. Of course, we're going to say that it's got better than brass detail. It's including the road name, road number, specific details. The Genesis line, that's what we do. They are going to be road number specific. So if a certain road number had a certain antenna array or a certain horn, that one is going to have it as well. There's going to be interior seating for additional crew figures. A lot of guys are doing that now. They're adding crew figures to their locomotives and other pieces of freight equipment. This one, you're going to have the ability to do that too because you've got interior seating. The lighting functions in DCC mode, this is something that we didn't do in the past, and we heard about it. Because I don't know if you noticed this or not, model railroaders are very vocal.
They are.
Yeah,
yes.
They're very vocal.
Yeah.
And so our Athearn engineers, they listen. We're all modelers at Athearn. And so the lighting DCC, you don't have to worry about a wand or something that's going to get lost. The DCC brightness is now controlled.
Oh, that's nice.
That is something that we didn't have in the past. See-through end platforms and steps. It doesn't sound like much, but remember
it looks good. We were looking at those SPs, and that kept grabbing my eye on those. It's like, I know I have one of these, but I guess I never realized the see-through on the platforms and the steps. So yeah, it's an attractive feature.
Wire grab irons, of course, flush window glazing, that's a given. Caboose trucks with rotating roller bearing caps. That's a Genesis standby, really is. We're also going to have the axle generator details. That's something that's kind of standard with these cabooses. Body mounted couplers, of course, and something that's really nice, the etched metal coupler platforms. That stands out really nicely. And of course, since it's Genesis, coupler lift bars, train line hoses, brake hoses, hardware, full underframe detail. So air brake reservoir, control valve, brake cylinder, plumbing, all of that. That's all there because it's Genesis. And of course, minimum radius on these. What do you think? You want to take a gamble?
I would think they'd make it around 18.
They're gonna work for 18. Yeah. So if you've got an 18-inch radius or greater, you've got nothing to worry about. Now let's talk about the light equipped features, and these are the ones without sound. This is just the decoder with light. So they're all LED lighting. That's pretty much standard now. The onboard DCC lighting decoder, it will operate in DCC and analog DC mode. So that's a nice feature. You don't necessarily have to have a DCC on your layout. Various classes will feature single or dual roof markers or end mount markers for the prototype, because again, it's Genesis. Not all cars have marker lights. So something to keep in mind. These are based on the actual prototype. We saw Janik earlier in the program. Janik spends most of his time buried in books, on the web, talking to you, to make sure that everything is correct. And do we get it right every single time? No, we're a manufacturer. We make mistakes. We try to make it as accurate as possible with the information that we have. And I think Janik does a really good job of getting all those details in order. So yeah, that is your light equipped features. Now let's go to the sound equipped features, and we add to that. You still get the lighting features. but you're also going to get the air horn or train line air whistle as appropriate.
That's cool.
You know, earlier we were talking about
Yeah.
shoving platforms or reverse moves.
Mhm.
Well, this is the perfect thing for that. If you want to put a clickety-clack sound in to have the jointed rail sound
Mhm.
or the flat spot, you can have that in here as well. There is the brake set release sounds, including the retainers and brake squeal, which again, for you guys that are into operations, especially if you have a small layout, that opens
That's
up a
neat,
whole nother
yeah.
dimension. Handbrake tie down release, again, going back to the operations. Adjustable flange squeal. I think that's a cool
That's a
feature.
cool feature, yeah.
Really cool. And of course, all of these air horn and bell sounds work seamlessly within the Soundtrack's locomotive sound decoders. So that's not a problem. And full DCC functions available when you get the full DCC and sound models. So there's a lot there to
That's a lot going
unpack.
on, yeah.
So it's a good thing we've got this recording. So that is one of the things that we've been working on. And like I said, both Janik and his team and John have been extremely busy just trying to crank out this stuff. And we finally got this one out. We're really excited about it. A lot of people, are really excited for this particular car because we had a lot of requests for it. And already we got people like, man, just stop talking, get to the next thing. They want to know what the next thing is. It's like, wow, let the guys that want this caboose have their moment. Seriously, settle down. Well, I got to admit, I'm really excited about our next release. It's something that we had a lot of requests for, and it's something that I think people are going to be happy with. You know how modeling is. As a manufacturer, it's like, well, you never make modern stuff, and you make modern. Well, you never make 50s stuff.
Yeah. Well,
So, I mean,
Yeah.
guys from the 1980s into the 90s, be prepared. You're going to be happy. Guys that are doing modern stuff, yeah, you maybe not so much. Transition era guys, sorry, this is not a transition era item. We're going to go to the 1981, and we're going to go back a little bit in time, and we're going to be talking about EMD and a very important model, the SD50. Introduced May of 1981.
Wow, yeah.
Which to me doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah, right it was.
But 3,500 horsepower. And the reason why they did this is, do you remember what the big competition was at the time? Alco's gone. So
Right, the C30-7s
Right.
had been gaining a lot of ground. They came out 76, 77
right.
from GE. So yeah, EMD, although the SD40-2 was huge, was looking for that next step, the next evolution in the line. And they did a test bed with 4-axle G40Xs, and then did some of the short frame SD50s that went like to KCS. So developed this and then launched the G50 SD50 model in the
Right.
early 80s.
And for a time, the EMD SD40-2 was king of the rails.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
couldn't touch it. EMD had just hit a home run with that. And then they had come out with some other ones. EMD's SD45 and SD45-2s with their 3,600 horsepower. They were successful, but large 20-cylinder engines, not so fuel efficient.
No, not doing. Yeah,
It was not good. And if you remember, if you're from this era, we remember, the gas crisis, the fuel crisis. Well, that affected the railroads as well. And so the SD45 and SD45-2, while they were successful, they weren't the most efficient engines. The lack of efficiency alongside reported issues of reliability caused a lot of railroads to really rethink their motive power support. And this further magnified in the 1970s, like I said, because of the fuel crisis. So in May of 1981, EMD unveiled the new SD50, which would feature an updated version of the V16-645 and from the venerable SD40-2, of course, upgraded to 3,500 horsepower at 900 RPM. The SD50 had a longer frame, much longer long hood than its predecessors, and other improvements included moving the dynamic brake resistors of the dynamic brake grid from the traditional location above the prime mover to a cooler temperature location in front of the engine compartment air intakes, and it was closer to the electrical switchgear. This in turn separated them from other systems, resulting in simplified maintenance for both the prime mover as well as the electrical systems. So this was kind of think of it as a stepping stone to what we take for granted today. This was kind of one of those locomotives, and subsequently a lot of these class ones ordered these locomotives. Now the Athearn Genesis SD50, it's going to fill a void for the modeler of the 1980s and 1990s. This is a direct response to the requests that we've received over the years. The model will feature Genesis level detailing, such as the detailed cab and interior truck side frames with animated Timken or static Hyatt brakes,
Nice.
LED headlights, operating class lights where applicable. I can't stress this enough. If the prototype had working classification lights, the model will. So don't get a 1990s era road name and get mad that we don't have operating classification lights because they weren't using them by the 90s. Operating ditch lights were applicable. Operating number boards, operating ground lights, prototype specific antennas, the horns, the bells, all of that. This is your typical Genesis stuff. And the Athearn Genesis SD50 will also serve to fill the void between the Dash 2 models of the late 1970s and the modern microprocessor locomotives of the later 20th century and beyond. So this is kind of the bridge model of that. And so I kind of cheated here. This is a great picture you found for us.
Oh, that all by itself, yeah.
This is January of 1985. So this locomotive's new in this
fairly
picture.
new, yeah.
And looks like this was taken in by Bob Wilt, and it's again part of the White River collection, the Kevin U. Daly.
This, I think the 50s, if I remember right, are the last new motive power delivered in Chessie System.
Absolutely right. Yeah. It's funny because when CSX was new, these locomotives weren't that old.
Weren't that old, yeah.
A few years old. Here's a great one and some coal service. This is a photographer, unfortunately. We don't know. It's part of the Kevin U. Daly collection. This is C&O, of course. The Chessie had B&O, C&O in Western Maryland. This is 1985. And then another cool picture you found. I mean, this is the Chessie paint looks great on these SD50s.
That is, yeah, that's a neat shot too. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. We have got, well, this is in West Virginia, it looks like, right?
Yeah.
And this
Frank Ferguson picture.
Frank Ferguson. Yeah. Neat picture. So let's talk about the Genesis models now. And again, the guys have been working on this feverishly. And I've known about it for over a year, and me not talking about it has just been killing me. Let's talk about Chessie. So Baltimore, Ohio, in this case, we're going to be offering the Baltimore and Ohio versions of Chessie. They ordered SD50s between July and August of 1984. 43 went to C&O in two separate orders, numbered 8576 to 8595. These units would be among some of the last units, like you said, to wear the Chessie System enchantment blue, vermilion, and yellow. Many of the SD50s would soldier on in the CSX era and wear various patches before eventually receiving full repaints. So let's talk a little bit more in detail. We'll get some more pictures up here for you guys. Side by side, left and right comparison here. So these are going to be as delivered appearance. 1984, 85 era locomotive. They're going to have the Nathan K5 horn. They're going to have the 4,000 gallon fuel tank and the long hood mounted bell. That's kind of a Chessie calling card. Yeah. Another Chessie calling card is the mail slot battery box doors. Some other things that are going to have early frame with the diagonal pilot cutouts with the rounded anti-climbers.
Nice. Yeah.
And the other thing that we want to stress is we did work with some Chessie experts in their field, and we would work with them back and forth. Did a lot of work with these experts because Chessie modelers are very particular. And you know why shouldn't they be? It was one of the coolest paint schemes that have been developed. So what in the road numbers are we going to be offering? These are all as delivered locomotives as they appeared when they were new on the property. Let's see, we're going to be offering 8578, 8581, and 8595. So if you're modeling, Chessie in the last days, I guess you could say, These three will fit into your fleet very nicely. Now, like all good things, depending on if you're a CSX modeler or a Chessie modeler, depending on how you look at it, they didn't stay like this forever.
Nope.
By, let's say, 1991, they took on a slightly different appearance. And you've got some pictures to prove that. Here's a Frank Ferguson picture you found for us. That looks like a recent repaint.
What's the year on it? 91?
91. So that would be a recent repaint.
That would have to be fairly new, yeah, I would think.
Yeah. And this was taken in Brunswick, Maryland. This is 8555. And let's see, what else did you show us? It's always a treat when you send us pictures. Here's 8555.
With ditch lights put on it.
With
so
ditch lights.
Later, yeah. And
A little
see
bit later.
The mailbox slot shows it very well with that 1 and 2 paint.
Yeah, well, this one, well, yeah, this would make sense. It's dated 97.
Oh, okay.
So that would make sense. Forward mounted only at this point. But really cool. I think this next picture is actually not too far from where we're at. This is Council Bluffs, 8563.
Oh, wow.
So not too terribly far from where we're at right now. This 94. And this was taken by, it says N. Colbert. Is that how you?
It's TN.
TN.
I assume Colbert, like, could be Colbert. I think it's Colbert. Isn't that the guy that's on CBS? Yeah, I think it's Colbert.
Yeah, but I don't think that guy.
It's not that guy. I don't think he's a train guy.
I don't think he's a train guy. But and then there's another one you've got here. And Dayton. This is a cool picture.
Yeah, look at that. The third unit's one of the pumpkin maintenance white paint schemes, which is real striking to see in a regular consist. Yeah.
Yeah, this is going through Dayton, Ohio, 1996. So to me, that's not that long ago.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so either.
But yeah, it is.
It was, unfortunately.
And I think that's a Lou Marie shot from Kevin Daly's club.
Yeah, I think you're right. So let's talk about CSX a little bit and what we're going to be doing with CSX models. So here's a rendering, and really there's not a lot of change. We're not going to go into the details because where'd they come from?
They were the Chessie, so yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that being said, CSX, of course, it was formed, when it was formed, the SD50s, like we were saying, they were only a few years old. They're still wearing their as-delivered Chessie System paint because, again, you know, industrial paint seems to last a lot longer. And I mean, a railroad isn't running on paint schemes.
Right. Although we like to think that.
We like to think that, but that's not the case. It's a money-making endeavor, and paint is one of the last things I think about. So these would, under CSX, still have their Chessie paint for a number of years, but eventually, as maintenance was performed, many of these patch units would receive a full YN2 paint scheme. Now, here's what's interesting, and this is where Janik really has to dig into the weeds. EMD would paint them, as well as CSX own Huntington shop. So there's going to be subtle differences.
All variations, yeah.
This is the kind of stuff, guys, that our product development team does not get enough credit for, because it's real easy to look at a picture and say, well, why is it different from what Athearn is advertising? Because Janik and his crew have to dig and say, wait a minute, you know what? A Huntington shop's paint scheme, while similar to EMD's, there's differences, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And that's where, of course, Genesis shines. And we're offering both of these for you CSX guys. We're offering both the EMD repaints as well as the Huntington shops. And so if you're modeling the early 1990s, you'll see the subtle differences between them, because again, they weren't just from the factory. They were being painted as a new railroad. And these particular SD50s are from the C&NW. These were from the 8553 to 8575 class, and they feature removed class lights. So remember what I said earlier?
Oh, yeah, depending on.
Yeah. So guys, these do not have operating class lights because in real life they have been removed. They're also going to have a K5 horn. And again, we worked with CSX experts in their field with the paint schemes, all of this, to make sure that these models are as accurate as possible. So let's go through locomotives that we're offering. We're going to in total do 4 CSX locomotives. So first we've got a Huntington repaint. This is 8556. It's a repaint with black anti-climbers. Look carefully, you'll see the lower CSX body placement and remove class lights on both ends. So those are gone. Original style number board font, which is interesting. Then we go to 8563. This is an EMD repaint. Its anti-climbers are blue, not black like the Huntington. The upper CSX body placement, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit higher. You know, subtle differences like that. This is what drives Janet crazy. There's so much that he has to look into and his crew has to look into. Class light plates on both ends.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then CSX replacement style number board fonts. So that's one of those things. If you were to put those two locomotives side by side, you're like, oh, somebody didn't do their job. The font on this is not the same as this one. Well, there's a reason for that. Our guys do the research on that, so you don't have to worry about it. And then we've got two more that we're offering. And these are going to be EMD repaints as well. We've got 8564 and 8567. Both of these, again, they're going to have the blue anti-climbers. Look at the CSX body placement. You can see it's a little bit higher than the Huntington Shops one. Again, class light plates on both.
Oh, cool.
Literally took the class lights out, plated over,
welded
repainted
squares.
Yeah, exactly. And these will have the CSX style font on their number boards. Now let's talk about the features. So again, these are going to be former C&O Chessie units. They're going to have the Nathan K5 horn, 4,000 gallon fuel tank, long hood mounted bell, again, going back to its Chessie heritage, and the mail slot battery box doors. Back in the day when you were rail fanning CSX in its early days, that was a spotting feature you knew right away what the lineage of the locomotive was. These are going to have, all four of these are going to have a newly repainted appearance. So they're based on models as they appeared in 1991. And these will have the EMD HTC trucks with animated Timken bearings. Again, art and colors have been completed with a complete cooperation of CSX resources. And this will also have the early frame with diagonal pilot cutouts and rounded anti-climbers. Interesting. So CSX guys, Chessie guys, I hope you're happy with the SD50 and the Genesis. But that's not all. We've got more. And remember the Denver Rio Grande that we were talking about with the Cabooses earlier? Well, I'm going to load these into my computer now. They're so secret they weren't even in the studio. Yeah, we had to be careful. Even Spring Creek didn't know about these. So let's bring up our Denver Rio Grande. It's loading. A lot of guys are happy with these schemes. I know CSX has been wanting some love. And yeah, basically, guys, if you've got questions on any of these, try to hold out till the end of the program. Both Tony and I will hang out for a little bit and talk to you guys. But let's go on to our next locomotive. SD50, of course, but Rio Grande. Perfect timing.
Beautiful.
It's almost like we planned it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is almost like you planned it.
Yeah. It's almost like Janik planned it. So I'm going to say he planned it.
Yeah.
Safe bet. So let's talk about Denver Rio Grande. This picture you've got here, this is a Harlan Wilson from 1987. And looks like Denver.
Denver, yeah, 1986 J. Harlan Wilson from Kevin E. Daly's collection. And yeah, it's what, 55?
5515.
Okay, yeah. I think I have the class unit in here someplace too. They were what, 17? 5501 to 5517?
I think so, yeah.
Is the group that arrived in 1984 for Rio Grande.
Awesome picture, awesome paint scheme. Just pops. Really cool. Here's one from James Conroy rather. And
that's a whole group. That's up at Phippsburg, Colorado on the Craig branch.
Okay.
And as you can see, that's probably two different coal train sets passing each other there. But I think everything in that picture are SD50s with 5501, the one class unit is there as well. And it's neat. You can see from the left to the right on the pictures how filthy those Rio Grande units would get working through all the tunnels and everything else on the Moffat.
Right.
And yeah, because the one on the left looks pretty good, but the other one's already pretty heavily weathered.
Yeah. That's a neat picture. Another neat picture that I really enjoyed
Oh, I
was,
love
isn't
that
this
shot.
awesome?
Wow.
Jim
Yeah.
Boyd again, at it again. Jim Boyd was
Yeah.
a phenomenal rail fan and documentation
Yeah.
of railroads. Of course, he was the first editor of Rail Fan,
Back in
and
the early 70s.
that's
Yeah.
right. And this is a great shot.
Beautiful.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost like a company calendar
We
picture.
have, and we have used that before at White River on a full page ad for something. Maybe it was TRP. I don't remember. But yeah, that's a beautiful shot coming out of the east portal of the Moffat Tunnel, which is approaching this is in its 100th anniversary
Mm.
swing of 1923 to 1927 was the build.
Yep.
So they were digging the Moffat 100 years ago, the 6 mile tunnel under the Continental Divide. But yeah, that's a beautiful shot of 50s rolling out eastbound out of the east portal.
Yeah, that's some great. Doesn't get much better than that. It really doesn't. Here's a good view of the back end of the SD50 for Rio Grande. We're going back to, it looks like a James Conroy picture. Yeah, James Conroy. Tell us a little bit about this guy.
And yeah, I don't know James. There's a lot of slides in the collection from him, but I'm not familiar with his or who he was or the photography work. But and this again is, and I remember I think the railroaders called it Peaburg
Oh, okay.
for Phippsburg, and it's about halfway up I think between Bond and Steamboat Springs before you make the jog over to Craig.
Yeah.
So definitely coal country
Nice.
there that SD50's in.
Very cool. And then another great picture you shared with us. Definitely earning its keep by the looks of this picture. Another one from J. Harlan Wilson. And where's this one taken?
Denver, which would be like around Burnham or that's of course Rio Grande's east end is leaving Denver to head to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
But yeah, another neat shot there of those. And this is the first time this model, because there have been other SD50s. You guys had SD50s in the ready to roll line,
Right.
but the 50 to date, I don't believe anybody's done with that rear grand light package in the nose.
Right.
And they did technically
Mm-hmm.
leave EMD without that light, and they went to Kansas City and Mid America Rail Car, put the lights in the nose. So you can almost get away with saying, well, they are correct as delivered for a very brief time.
Very brief,
But
yeah.
very neat to finally get to see the signature Rio Grande package in the nose on these.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about Rio Grande. They had a interesting history on these locomotives. They purchased 17 SD50s from EMD. It was the late summer of 1984, so a lot of the pictures that we saw, they were still new, even though they're really dirty.
Yeah.
But that's because of their environment. Now, these were built to the Chessie System specs. I didn't know
Right.
that until I did some research on that.
I think they got that last order of tunnel motors around 1980, and they went back and wanted more tunnel motors. They were going to buy 20 more tunnel motors, and EMD said, "Well, take a look at the 50s."
Right.
And they actually sent some, I think, Seaboard System demonstrator units went out and worked on the Moffat, and between the positive traction control or the wheel slip thing and the others, they said this and the uprated horsepower, you don't need to buy 20, we'll say 17 SD50s instead. And they were tacked on the end of the Chessie System, that C&NW order group. So they actually do have a lot of the spotting features, even like the signature mailbox slot is on the Rio Grandes too.
That's true, yeah. And these units were delivered with a K5LA horn. That's a cool sounding horn, by the way. And like you're saying, the mail slot battery boxes and hood mounted bells, because again, like you said, these were basically same spec as Chessie, and that's how we're showing them. And of course, they were known for their gyro lights. However, they were soon added to the SD50s, 5501 to 5517, which you stated earlier in the program, once they were officially on the property. And our models will actually include the familiar operating nose gyro light that will operate in the Tsunami 2 equipped versions, and also the re-rail trucks.
Always a classic thing on the Rio Grande mountain railroading. I think you end up re-railing quite a bit, and you always would catch those because they were painted in that action orange color and hanging from, like over there over the rear truck. So that's cool that you're including that.
Yeah, definitely. That's a cool detail. some of the other details on this particular model for Rio Grande, Nathan K5 horn, like we were saying, K5 LA horns. They're going to have a 4,000 gallon fuel tank. Hood mounted bell. Again, a lot of these features coming over from the chassis. EMD HTC trucks, again, with the animated Timken bearings. A lot of the same call outs as the Chessie. So when you look at them like this, when you see these 3D renderings, they look very similar to Chessie. Of course, there's one spotting feature that's a little different. And we'll talk about that and some of the options that these will have. So you're also going to have the Chessie mail slot battery box doors, and the early frame with the diagonal pilot cutouts and rounded anti-climbers. That's kind of cool.
Cool. Okay.
Now the models are going to be based on as they appeared in 1984. So basically factory fresh. If you're a Denver Rio Grande modeler, though, that probably will get pretty quick. Yeah, so enjoy those. But let's talk about what road numbers we're going to feature. And again, these are as they appeared when they left the EMD factory. So we've got 3 road numbers that we're going to offer. And those road numbers are 5501, 5510, and 5515. And since these are, fresh from the factory, they're pretty much identical with the exception of the road number. But they're going to have a lot of features to them. So, yeah, I think a lot of folks are excited about the Denver Rio Grande. I'm kind of looking at the collection of comments, and I mean, well, we've got 357 people online right now while we're here in Dashwood, Nebraska at Spring Creek, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, what about this railroad? What about this railroad?" Well, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
In fact, so we're gonna go into the secret vault and get some more road names, because the next road name, I think a lot of people have already guessed already, and I think they'll be pleasantly surprised. Tony, while I dig that up, how long do you think our folks have been asking for a Genesis level SD50?
Again, as I say, the ready to roll model was a fine model, and it's been out a long time. But as well liked as it was, being like a Rio Grande fan, that was always one of the things. Well, but it doesn't have that light. It's so good, it's so close, and this really answers those things and brings it up to this level. So it's really exciting to see that we're going to finally get the 50, and then of course the obvious, the SD60s and other things that would follow on that frame. So nice to see a Genesis move for these.
So one that a lot of people have been asking for in the comments, they're like, "Hey, you know what, Chessie, that's cool. Denver Rio Grande. What about us Chicago guys?"
Oh,
Chicago Northwestern doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't get as much love as it deserves. So
and they were finally coming into their own about this time. I mean, this was a road that was always, in fact, out all those Granger roads like Milwaukee and Rock Island that were so struggling. The Northwestern really had a rough way to go, and then the Wyoming coal boom hits, and suddenly they go from a road trying to keep F units running to buying these SD50s and brand new power. It's like,
out of the blue. I mean, these. Yeah, because the Chicago Northwestern, like you said, it was kind of like a hard luck railroad.
Oh yeah.
You never knew what you were going to see if you were rail fanning back in the 70s and 80s, and then out of left field come these SD50s.
Boom! Suddenly they're buying new power. Yeah.
This picture here that you've got up on the screen, this is looks like this is an Andy Smith photo. Where was this taken?
Clinton, Iowa, in the spring of '88. And this is a nice shot because we get to see the overhead, and you get to see, I think there's a winterization hatch. Which was kind of the Northwestern. No, sorry, not on those. Or is there? Yeah, no.
Yeah, you can just barely make something out.
The computer here that we're working on is just beyond my poor glasses tonight.
You're not the only one.
I mean, yeah, I'm getting too old. But really beautiful scheme on these. This is a nice overhead look at one of those to see all that detail. It'll be up on top on the models.
Oh, there's a good picture.
This is out on the ore roads, the Duluth, Mesabi, and Iron Range. That I don't know if it's on pool power or leased, or I'm guessing it's probably in a pool run, but I don't know for sure. That's a Robert C. Anderson picture from Kevin E. Davis collection. But yeah, as I was digging for SD50s, I found a handful of these where they're mixed in ore road trains.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's a neat picture. This is a very dramatic picture. I love this picture. This one here, this was a little bit later, not too much later, 1989. This is this is a Robert C. Anderson photo. So let's talk a little bit about Chicago Northwestern. And here's a rendering of our version. Again, these are all going to be road name and in some cases road number specific. So Chicago Northwestern, they purchased 35 of these SD50s.
Wow, nice.
Between November and December of 1985. So again, like you said, out of left field, just okay, let's order 35 of these. Now they numbered them 7,000 to 734, and most of these units wore their as delivered scheme right into the 1995 Union Pacific purchase. We're offering the first run as they appeared when Chicago Northwestern first received them. So when they got them on the property in 1985, this is how they're going to look. They're going to feature a cab strobe light, unique triangular antenna that Chicago Northwestern had,
Well,
and the early step wells. And the handrails will also be without a step guard. Interesting. Some more features of the specific Chicago Northwestern. Let's get some more pictures up here to show, compare. So as delivered appearance, like we said, Leslie 3-chime horn. These will have the EMD HTC trucks, the Hyatt bearings. We can see the 4,500 gallon fuel tank and the frame mounted bell. So unlike the Chessie and the Denver Rio Grande, these are mounted on the frame. And let's get a few looks of the cab, front and back, and the end detail and the front detail. These are going to have the late EMD battery box doors with the dual louvers, and not the mailbox. And this is going to have the late frame, so it's going to have vertical pilot cutouts and blunt anti-climbers, not the rounded that we saw earlier. So we're offering 3 different road numbers for the Chicago Northwestern, and here they are. Really cool paint scheme. I was sad to see this go, but we are offering the following road numbers: 7004, 7015, and 7022. And again, the day they left LaGrange and the day that they went into service, late 1985. That's how they're going to look.
Sharp.
So weathering is up to you guys, but that is for the first run of these locomotives. Now, one that I haven't seen in the comments is going to be our next one. At least, I'm running the show while we're talking, so I don't always see all the comments. But there's a railroad here that I don't know if I've seen in the comments yet. But let's get that up.
I think it gets forgotten a little bit because of the mix of the paint schemes and such, and I don't think they stayed forever with the lettering that they came with.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and it's a controversial model. I will say that. It's a controversial model because it was kind of the end of an era and the beginning of a new era under new ownership, and so this can be as divisive as the yellow cell versus the red cell crowd of the UP guys. So let's go ahead and put up our next railroad. And we're talking Canaries. Talking Canaries. We're talking Missouri Pacific, of course. This picture here by Ken Albrecht. And where was this taken? Do you remember?
Crest, Arkansas.
Okay.
And that's what, in the early spring of '86.
Okay, so
so they'd have been fairly new at the time.
2 years old. Okay. And then you've got one that's I'm going to assume is a little bit closer to you. This picture that was taken.
That's actually Kevin U. Daly shot. That's in December 1984. That's down in Independence, Missouri, on the east side of Kansas City.
Nice. And in fact, that's not the only one from Kevin U. Daly we have. I think you sent me another one.
Independence, Missouri, in early 1985. So again, this had been the early days. for when these units were brand new.
Yeah.
Looks like working a coal train there on the old Sedalia sub of the Mopac.
Wow.
That's a neat shot.
Very neat. This is looks like that's kind of in your neck of the woods
That is
too.
yeah, that's in the Kansas City area. That's a Dale Zoo picture in 1985.
Okay.
And I think what would be, they called this the North Little Rock lettering, I think is what that Missouri Pacific style, because it's
Yeah.
not the same
Not the same.
typeface
Right.
as Union Pacific uses. And both the numerals on the cab and the Missouri Pacific down the side were different. So I think they're kind of striking.
I do, you know, Mopac's a cool railroad. Let's not forget that.
They would have been very neat in Jinx Blue with the
Yeah,
two
they
white
would've.
chevrons
Yeah,
on the
the
nose, the
screaming
screaming.
eagle.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, but we'll wait for a legendary livery.
Janik, if you're still online, there you go.
There's my legendary livery
liveries.
request is
Listen
I
to
want
Tony.
a Mopac Jinx Blue one.
I
But
do
yes,
too.
I'm excited to see this armor yellow with that North Little Rock lettering.
You know, I did some digging on this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We've got one more slide from Kevin New Daily again. This is a cool picture to cut. That is a cool picture. It looks like
Independence area again.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this, because like I said, I did some digging into this era of Missouri Pacific, and yeah, it's one of those things, you either love it or you hate it. It just depends. But let's talk about it. So when Missouri Pacific took delivery of its 60, they ordered 60 of these SD50s in November and December of 1984. Those were numbered 5,000 to 5059. The as-delivered units wore the corporate colors of Armor Yellow and Harbor Mist Gray. However, MP was now part of the Union Pacific family in one of the largest mergers in history at that point. These were nicknamed Canaries, as they were known to be called by rail fans at the time, looked to share the same color scheme as the Union Pacific. However, there were some distinguishing paint differences between Missouri Pacific and Union Pacific locomotives. All of the Missouri Pacific locomotives featured that Missouri Pacific spelled out in the long hood in what you were talking about earlier, the North Little Rock font. So very different from the Union Pacific font.
Yeah.
The trucks were painted gray rather than what was common at the time on UP silver. And you remember when UP had the anti-glare panels on the top of the short hood? They were that kind of zinc chromate green color.
Yeah.
Well, Missouri Pacific didn't do that. They actually painted theirs gray.
Oh, okay.
And actually afterwards, UP adopted that. And nowadays you see the gray. Now, after 1986, operations between the MP and the UP consolidated, and Complete Control was acquired by the Union Pacific in 1997. And the units were, of course, eventually repainted into full UP lettering. So there's the history on that. We're going to be offering a couple of different road numbers for Mopac.
I remember when these came out too, because the merger was new, and seeing it's like, is this what they're going to do? That they're going to keep like Western Pacific and Missouri Pacific names, but paint them armor yellow. That was a kind of exciting thing to have happening at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, so again, these are going to be based on what the Mopac ordered. So these are going to have the as delivered appearance. This is going to be basically brand new from LaGrange. Frame mounted bell. Okay. Xenon strobe light effect if you have the Tsunami 2 package. 4,500 gallon fuel tank. This is exciting. It has a Leslie 3-chime horn, but this is a newly tooled. We've not offered this horn before. And the truck mounted spare knuckles.
That's a cool feature. Right? I like seeing that when they would do that. Yeah, and that's something that we never used to have on models, and it's more common now in higher end models like this.
Yeah, it really is, and it's it's a calling card for this railroad. EMD HTC trucks, of course, with the animated Timken bearings, and this, of course, is going to have the late EMD battery box door with the louvers. And then the other thing, I'll go to the next picture here so we can kind of see, is there's going to be some differences. Late frame with vertical pilot cutouts and blunt anti-climbers.
Oh, okay.
So different from that. Now we're offering 2 road numbers for Missouri Pacific. I'll put them right here. They are road numbers 5014 and 5049.
Oh, okay.
And again, as they appeared new. And like I said, if you're a hardcore Mopac guy, you're like, man, I don't know. It's almost like admitting defeat, but it's still an important part of history.
Part of history, yeah, and
Yeah.
you gotta have them. Yeah.
It's so if you're a modeler of the 1980s and you're living in that era, you're going to want to pick up both road numbers here. Now there's one last road that we're going to talk about tonight, and I've seen it in the comments. People are asking.
Oh, asking for it. Okay.
Yeah, they're asking for it. And a lot of people are asking for this, and man, I hope to make some happy modelers tonight. Let's grab our last set of slides for the night and get that uploaded. But you want to take any guesses, Tony, as to what you think the last one is going to be?
Well, I know what it is because you sent me the thing to find slides for you. So
Yeah,
I do know
you
what
know.
we still have left. It is a road we don't see, I think, that much done in this scheme.
Right.
So yeah, I'm excited to see it.
So this is the last road that we're going to cover in this presentation tonight. Now, if your favorite road was not featured tonight, don't worry.
And I see some big blue fans
Yeah,
there.
there's some big blue fans.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Janik and his team are well aware that you guys want that. So let's see what we got here.
There it is.
There it is. So let's go ahead and remove him and add Kansas City Southern.
Kansas City Southern.
A lot of folks asking.
A just recent fallen flag.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting time too for this railroad. Kansas City Southern. Now the one that you've got here, this is another Kevin U. Daly photo.
This is Kansas City. This is like going south out of Kansas City, and this is a real popular spot to shoot over these bridges here. But that's a neat shot, and it's 1983.
Okay.
KCS, I think, is on the head end of getting these units because we talked about the Jeep 40Xs, which you guys have offered in Ready to Roll, was the 4-axle precursor, but I can't remember if they were SD40Xs or SD50Ss.
SD40Xs.
SD40Xs was the 6-axle, and that's KCS, I think, got some of those.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that. We'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, great picture, great paint scheme. Let's talk about Kansas City Southern real quick. So, like you were saying, they were experimenting with 4 testbed EMD SD40Xs. These were built in 1979. Kansas City Southern ordered the first production run of the SD50s.
Okay, yeah.
So they were the early adapter of the SD50s, and they were produced from late May into June of 1981. So
wow,
very
early, yeah.
They featured an early notched frame. They also had a rounded blower housing, which, if you remember,
instead of that angled, yeah.
Right.
Wow, okay. And that's going to be on the model?
It's going to be on the model.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, a lot of tooling has gone into these to make sure that we get all of those subtle differences. They also had a large exhaust stack, dual cab mounted strobes, which those will function if you get the Snobby 2, and a front warning light with off-site headlights. Kansas City Southern ordered their fleet of SD50s 704 through 713, and they were painted in the then standard white scheme with the red letters, the large red letters, which I always thought was striking. Didn't weather so well.
No. Yeah. White's maybe not the ideal color for a diesel locomotive, but yes, yeah.
Another interesting fact that I found in my research was 705. While 705 was wrecked and off the roster by February of '94, the others soldiered on, many receiving the Gray Ghost scheme before finally being sold off or retired. So that Kansas City guys, I know, it's again, there's paint scheme wars going on in the comments, I'm sure. Just because we did the white ones now doesn't mean we won't do the gray ones later. I mean, the SD50, we've actually got a lot to draw from. There's a lot of different things we can do. Let's talk about some of those features, though, that are, particular to Kansas City Southern. So some of the features that are specific to the Kansas City Southern, as these are going to be as delivered appearance, so 81, how they appeared, frame-mounted bell, Leslie 5-chime horn, and 4,500-gallon fuel tank. This is what's cool. This is all new tooling.
And I had not realized this till I pulled this slide for you. In fact, when I
Yes.
looked at it, I thought, oh, wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Let me find a different slide because this one has a goofy light, and that's probably not right. But I sent the picture anyway because I liked it on the bridge shot, and I thought I'll apologize for it and say, well, okay, that one has some weird light. But okay, so what's the deal on the light?
So this is a newly tooled offset cab headlight with warning light effect.
Oh, okay.
That works with the Tsunami 2 setup. And yeah, that's brand new tooling. I mean, totally ground up, brand new tooling. Nothing really recycled or anything. This is all new. Also, you're going to have the HTC trucks with the Hyatt bearings on this one, and early EMD battery box doors with single louvers, not the multi. Also, dual xenon strobe lights, which you can see that in that picture you sent us. And let's take a look at the front and back of the locomotive. We've got even more detail specific. Early walkway with the notch frame. And the thing that's cool about this is the rounded blower.
And I didn't realize that. Now I'm going to have to, I mean, I'm sure I will see it now every time I look at one of these KCS units, but it's like, now what? I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know any of the 50s didn't have the slanted blower. Wow. That's interesting. Yeah.
And this is, you know, again, this is the things that keep our product development team up at night, is just doing the research on all this stuff. And then, of course, they're going to have a large exhaust stack. So let's talk about the 3 road numbers that we're going to do. And man, they're striking paint scheme.
For plain white, it looks good.
Yeah. So you got 704, 707, and 713 again, as they appeared new on the property in 1981. Weathering is left to the modeler. So there you have it.
Wow.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. Now, again, since these are Genesis, they're going to have all the things that you expect with Genesis. That means ground lights. That means lighting features like the number boards. All of them have lit number boards. Depending on the locomotive, you may have classification lights that function. You may have ditch lights that function. It depends on the actual locomotive. So there you have it. We've got a little bit of time. We're going at a little over an hour, but we can definitely answer some questions now. Janik, thanks for hanging out with us.
And I wanted to, do I have it here? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm starting, this is third quarter diesel era from White River Productions. We'll do Rio Grande's SD50s that the magazine did SD50s about 30 years ago when it was all black and white. So this will be color. And when it was done 30 years ago, these were all still just Rio Grande. So I'm going to take you to SP repaints, Union Pacific kind of dispositions on where the fleet went. So this series will be in third quarter diesel era. And you can go to shop.whiteriverproductions.com to get that. Or, you know, if you buy stuff from Spring Creek Model Trains, like a lot of people do, I think you can ask them, and they probably throw magazines in there until you'd order as well. You probably order and say, can I have the latest issue of whatever? And they would put it in the box, I bet.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting some questions out there asking if the ones without the Tsunami 2, if those lighting features will work. Yeah, they're tooled for that lighting. So if you get a different decoder, you can definitely hook those up. You're going to have those lighting features. Basically, what we say only works in DCC. That means if you just get the standard DC and run it, you're going to have some lighting features, but not all of them.
And not a lot of control.
But if you get the Tsunami 2, you get, you know, all the bells and whistles, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
But if you want to use a different decoder, and I mean, you know, some people like peanut butter, some people like mayonnaise. I don't know.
Together on the same sandwich?
I don't know. Somewhere out there, I'm sure.
No, I would never do that.
I wouldn't do it.
I would do peanut butter and bananas, but I don't think I'd ever do peanut butter. I've done peanut butter on hot dogs even, but I would not do peanut butter and mayonnaise together in a sandwich. Sorry.
No, that means if you've got another decoder that you want to use, you can definitely hook up those lighting features and use it. So yeah, it's all the engineering is there. I mean, basically the product developers have done all the hard work, so you don't have to. Let's see what else. And we're already getting, I love it. You know, this locomotive is like brand new within the last hour, and we're already getting requests for different paint schemes. So let's see what Terry Poole has to say. Jim, is there a chance of the legendary livery SD50 in Southern ACL purple and Seaboard citrus scheme?
Wow. There's somebody that's diving into deeper waters than I would. I just wanted a Mopac blue.
Yeah, that's what I wanted for legendary.
But I mean, this purple ACLs or whatever.
Something. Okay. Yeah, Janik, if you're out there, take some notes, because our guys are really
And are these is this on the website yet, the cabooses, and is this going to be in this month's? When can we start looking at the order things?
You're gonna see them soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
Okay.
Very soon. Yeah, Tim, it's a joke. Settle down. It's just a joke. Nobody likes a joke anymore. Good Lord. Let's see what else we got here. Going through, there's a lot of comments coming out. And again, you can see it in the comments now. A lot of people don't like legendary liveries. I don't know how many times we've had to have this conversation. Don't worry, the first run, they are all based on fact. I can tell you that the product developers and Janik have spent hours upon hours of research on this stuff. Tim, if you don't like what we're saying, feel free to punch out. We don't need the negativity. So goodbye. Yeah, Janik is done a great job on this. His team has done a great job on this, and loving what they did here. Rick wants to know walkway lighting. Not on this run. Nothing like that. We are going to have the ground lights, however, and we're going to have again some specific lighting features based upon the prototype. And again, if we didn't pick your favorite railroad, don't worry. This is a brand new model. We've got enough to go on for years.
I would think so.
Yeah, so definitely we're seeing folks wanting different types of versions of the SD50 as well as different roads. And again, we're here at Spring Creek, and you're not going to have to wait long for the official announcement. This is just kind of the, hey, this is what we've been working on. Keep an eye on our social media. The end of the month is coming soon. I wouldn't be surprised if these are in the new announcement.
In that new group. Oh, cool.
And if you like this, please contact Spring Creek. They would be more than happy to take your pre-order.
SpringCreekModelTrains.com. You can start there, get telephone, give them a call.
Give them a call, send them an email. And yeah, we're getting some great, I'm going to put some of these great kudos up because I don't think our product development team gets enough thank yous, in my opinion. Jarrell saying Missouri Pacific SD50 and Genesis. Thank you so much, Janik. Yeah, Janik and his team have been crazy busy on this. This is why you don't see them as much. Dave Abeles, we all know Dave because he's a big Conrail guy.
I was going to say we didn't hit his road tonight, but yes, I'm sure Conrails are coming. Yeah.
Ground lights make a big difference. Glad you're doing them. If you can make them constantly lit, including in a consist. Yeah, I mean that's one of those things that it's almost a requirement now. Somebody started it, and now,
again, then it becomes, well, they all have to have that.
Yeah. Here's one from Rogan. Happy that the SD50s are now in Genesis. Looking forward to the detailed, ready to roll locomotives and rolling stock in the future. Well, eventually some of those items will go on into the Genesis, just depending on what our consumer demand is. Let's see. Brian Scott's really happy. Thank you, Brian. Again, Janik's in the audience right now. He's probably answering some questions that we're not getting. And it really, the credit goes to the product development team. They've been really busy with this stuff. Let's see what else we've got. Let's see. I see one of those or more Rio Grande units on the OC, Dave Abeles. And sounds like Big Blue might not be far behind. When that happens, I will be ready to upgrade Eras and Road to Conrail. There you go. One of the things that product development is always, I don't want to say struggled with, but it's a real thing. Time. Janik and I talked about Conrail, and we wanted to do Conrail, but there was more research that had to be done. And they had already spent so much time on those other roads. Like, you know what? Let's wait. Let's make sure we get all the information correct. And that's what I like about Janik's team, is they do their best. And I'm not saying they're perfect. We still make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. If there's somebody in the comments section that doesn't think they make mistakes, I'll show you the first liar. But yeah, they try to get as much correct in the beginning as possible. And that was one of the things. We want to give each road the respect that it deserves and give it the detail that you, our customers, deserve. So you won't have to wait too long. Stacy wants to know, are the Denver Rio Grande ICC cabooses Genesis? Yes, they are. They are Genesis. And again, they are available with just lights or lights and sound. And you're not going to have to wait long for that announcement. Greg's got an interesting comment. I photographed the Chessie System B&O SD50s in the 80s when they arrived. The Genesis version is a welcome model. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a pretty scheme.
Yeah, it really
neat.
is. Yeah. Another one. Loving the Chessie SD50s. I assume C&O's number of variations in the future release. Yeah, that's a safe assumption. It really is. Yeah, and we're getting some guys in the comments. I mean, if you don't like what we're talking about, let's not take it away from the folks that do appreciate these models. If you don't like it, it's kind of like Facebook. What do they say? Scroll on.
Oh, scroll.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people, myself included, realize the amount of work it takes for the Athearn product developer to make these models. These guys work sometimes around the clock to get this stuff right. And I can say honestly, I'm a little biased by this. I'm sure Janik is, because he's got his heart and soul in this. His team's got his heart and soul in this. And let's try to keep model railroading positive. If you don't like it, then move on. I don't like minivans.
No?
No.
Oh.
No, minivans and Priuses. I don't care for. But you don't see me bugging the minivan chat. So anyways, any more, and then we're going to let you go to get some modeling done. But pretty exciting. It sounds like a lot of people.
We've had a wonderful day up here at Spring Creek, visiting with the Zucker folks. Remember Spring Creek Model Trains? We do a live show.
Yeah.
Jeff and Mike.
Right.
And myself once a month. And we'll be talking about the upcoming Fremo event, which is in July here at Deschler.
Right.
And then they will be at the St. Louis RPM, I think is maybe the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Zucker is out in Pennsylvania at the NSE deal. So always look at train shows for Spring Creek. They go all over the place.
Do they sleep?
They don't.
I don't think so.
They don't. I don't think they do. And the miles, they must get a deal on tires, because they go all these shows. I mean,
that's true.
It's everywhere. Like time for tires again. But so we have really great. We've had a great time today. With Jeff has put up with us all day, and David. Yes, he has.
He deserves a medal.
Yeah, he's ready to go home. But we had a great time. I always love coming up to Spring Creek. Great first day of summer. This is the road trip up to Spring Creek. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, let's see a couple of more comments, and then we got to let these folks go home because they've got a business to run. Oh, let's see what else we got. I got some ribbing going on about the caravan comment. Yeah, I never got into those. Just never did. I'd rather have an SUV. A lot of good comments. Thank you for the comments on the show. There's a lot of work that goes involved in both Tony getting all the research to me on time. In some cases, you spent some long hours getting these pictures to me and getting this up. So thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoy this. And let's see. We've got one from AJ's Productions. Hi there. I see you're doing some Chicago Northwestern ones. Now, I don't mean to ask for more already, but would you consider doing the 7009? It's preserved at the Illinois Railroad Museum, Union, Illinois. I get it, guys. I am worse than you guys when it comes to, it's like, I want a Conrail SD50, and Janik's like, shut up, Jim. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like you guys. Don't worry about it. We're modelers here. We're used to it. And, actually, again, Janik and maybe some of the other guys on Athearn, they're taking notes. They're seeing what you guys are saying, and that gives us ideas for the next production.
And send in those products. If you've got requests on road names, they've got an SD50 now. So what do you want to see? And the address for that is?
It is Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. And that does go right to, it doesn't go to me. Because if it goes to me, then I'm like calling John every 5 minutes. We need to do this. This is a great idea. And John doesn't have time for that. But no, they actually go to John Stackpole. He's our lead developer here at Athearn. And he won't respond to them because he's a busy man. He's developing new product. But he is taking all of those, all those requests, they get recorded. And when we have our annual meeting, we sit down and we say, what is the status of the industry? What do people want? And we draw from that. So 2 more, and then we're going to let you guys go. heard a rumor about a GP40 and Chessie Gold. There's no rumor.
That's not a rumor. You guys announced that. Yes.
GP40-2 that's
the
available now.
GM50. Yeah.
Yeah, GM50. So if that is something you want to pre-order, get with your hobby shop now because pre-orders on that close next Friday.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a hobby shop that you normally pre-order from, is there a good?
I do know of a hobby shop that I would highly recommend. It's in beautiful Deschler, Nebraska.
That's right.
Spring Creek Model
Spring Creek.
Trains. Yes.
Definitely. All right. Well, I want to thank you guys all for joining us here tonight and checking out the new work that Athearn's doing. It's going to be an exciting year. We've got some great stuff going on. Also, check out Spring Creek Model Trains online. Also, check out Model Railroad News with Tony Cook. And you're not just doing Model Railroad News, you're doing
Model Railroad News every month, and the HO Collector gets its first annual. That'll be out in July, 116 pages, all color. That goes on White River's website, I think, next Tuesday with a pre-release special. And of course, Diesel Era, as I shared, the SD50 series is going to come up and start with Rio Grande third quarter issue this year. So all sorts of neat stuff.
So there you go. Busy people in this room with their different functions in the hobby industry. We do it for you guys because we're modelers. Everybody in this room is a modeler.
Yeah.
Jeff's hiding in the background.
We have Jeff over here.
Yeah, come on
he's monitoring.
Hi, everybody.
Look at that. Jeff and I in the same place. You're used to seeing us
Hello,
miles
everybody.
apart for
Hope
our
you
show.
had fun tonight.
Good times. So there you have it. Give Spring Creek a call. And yeah, really exciting. So with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight for these exciting comments, exciting announcements, exciting ICC Caboose, of course, the SD50. And who knows where you'll catch me next, or Tony next for that matter. But we'll be back with another Athearn Extra that will be live. Remember, Train Tuesday is pre-recorded until the end of September. But we'll be back in the fall with all new live Train Tuesdays every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Until next time, everyone, be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, visit a great hobby shop, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.